Mame fa na se ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV de o se dem yopo.
Ashafoni tifo ye mama kwaba eba PENDREAM TV. Ye de ni HM or Parliament na vetting and semia ekoso ya enam so ama ebi mo SSA tables ne microphones ne ne keka hu. Sinanombo ene Kwesi Pratt Junior de nsembia tudwa o makasa fa ho. Na omusa kasafa comments are Annoh Dompreh ekomeki ya na wachire se MPP for NT NDC for MO 4 MPs ya suspend mu Afri Parliament so omo kasafa ho. Ensema hudo bi kawe ho na Sinanombo ene Kwesi Pratt e de atudwa. Mepeso be ka me ho na ati omo nsem no enchiremu. Ansa na be kono subscribe to channel no. Like na share dwumadi no ma afoforo ensa enkabi. Yenti ensema Sinanombo ene Kwesi Pratt e de atudwa.
I am Sena Nombo. And once again, welcome to the Mother World Talk Shows. Alaji and Alaji. We say it as it is here. In the end, we'll leave you better educated. Set up a committee to go into the happenings at the vetting committee on the 30th of January 2025. Well, the committee started its work. Then the minority withdrew. And they've since refused to be part of the work of the committee. They've labeled the chairman of the committee unfit to chair the committee. Their reason, that the chairman once said during the time when they were fighting over seats in the dynamics of the Nana-Addo administration, that if somebody sits on his seat, he will beat the person up. So he is a purveyor of violence and cannot be the chair of the seat, the person who occupies the seat. The minority leader has further gone on to say that they are against the airing of the work of the committee. They've also raised the issue of the Privileges and Immunity Committee being formed to deal with the matter. But in the meantime, the Speaker has reversed the suspensions after apologies were made on the floor of Parliament. So we'll go into the work of the Annoh Committee thus far, because now only the majority members are doing the work. And no member of the minority has either continued as a member of the committee or appeared before the committee to tell their side of the story, the alleged bias. And then we'll also talk about the committee that has been put in place, led by Professor George T.K. Odro, which will be looking into education and educational reforms. He says there is no aspect of education that will be left untouched, from the basic level all the way to the tertiary level. Everything will be on the table. We'll have a conversation on that. And perhaps we'll conclude with short tributes to Dr. David Percy, as we remember the man ahead of his final farewell. Well, let me jump to Kwesi Pratt on the issue.
Well, I mean, a lot of people have been expressing surprise at what happened in Parliament and what is happening in Parliament. I am not surprised at all. What is clear is that some of the members of our Parliament have decided to expose Parliament in a bourgeois society for what it is. You know, before, the true nature of Parliament is hidden in the exchange of pleasantries and so on. In reality, this is a bourgeois democratic society, and its Parliament has all its features. Now, Honorable Ricketts raises a point about how some people got into Parliament, how they became members of Parliament in the first place. And that's an important issue. You see, CDD, all kinds of research organizations have established that in Ghana, to become a member of Parliament, you need so much. And last time, we were told that you need about $5 million to become a member of Parliament. That excludes the vast majority of our people. It means that the vast majority of our people are excluded. Now, who are the people who are able to raise these huge amounts to contest elections and to become members of parliament? There are people who obviously are pursuing the interests of the moneyed elite in our society. Clear. You understand? In all of the elections, we've had situations where people have been killed as part of the process of getting people into parliament. Now, if you're part of a system which leads to murder, to killing of people and so on, in order to get people into parliament, are you surprised that they are breaking tables? Breaking tables is nothing compared to killing people and so on. So I think it's important that we understand this, you know, very, very clearly. Now, something surprises me, and it surprises me a great deal, that you have a parliament of 276 members, and you have a caucus of 88 members, and they are allowed to hold the whole country and parliament to ransom. What is happening? Something is not working. 276 member parliament, and 88 of them do as they please, disrupt everything, hold all of us to ransom. Something is not working. Something is not in its place. You understand? That's my worry. Of course, even if the minority caucus was made up of just one person, that one person has rights and responsibilities. They have a right to freely express themselves. They have a right to contribute to debates and so on. But they don't decide. They don't make decisions for this country. I mean, how do you allow the micro minority to pose as if without them, nothing can happen in parliament? Something is wrong. And it is that thing which is wrong that we must examine. You understand? You see, I have been watching parliament. And I remember one incident where a member of parliament gave a hefty slap to his colleague. Really hefty slap across the face. You understand? I saw it. I remember seeing a member of parliament grab ballot papers and chewing the ballot papers like a rat. Listen, I saw it. I know that in parliament there have been serious allegations of impersonation. Those allegations were never proven, but they still hang over the head of parliament. Now, if you have a parliament in which it is alleged that members of parliament are impersonated, what kind of parliament can that be? And this matter should have been pursued to its logical conclusion. It was not. And it continues to hang over parliament. But what happened recently, I think is the worst of all the things that have happened in parliament. I'm sitting in my office and I'm watching television. And I see on television a member of parliament ordering his colleagues to obtain tables. The video is there for all to see. Obtain the tables. He himself carries his chair and places it on the table. Then his colleagues start carrying their chairs, placing it on the table, and so on. And then they start the process of distraction. destroying microphones and so on. And you know the worst part? The following day or so, the leader of this micro minority has the effrontery to hold a press conference and to tell all of us that the damage was minor.
Yeah.
So we should know it doesn't matter. You can destroy government property, you can break the legs of tables and so on. After all, it's minor damage. Minor damage? Should anything be destroyed? And you know, when I was watching television and seeing what was happening in Parliament, you know what came to mind? It seemed to me that I was watching a bunch of primary school boarding school children protesting over too much pepper in their soup in the dining hall. It didn't look like Parliament House to me. It looked like some dining hall scene in a primary boarding school. Students protesting about insufficient sugar in their cocoa. Incredible. You understand? And they think that they should go. They are bluffing on top. They are boycotting sessions. They are holding press conferences. They are not even ashamed. Can you believe it? These guys are not ashamed. They don't care. They are wearing their suits and addressing the media and making foolish claims about minor damage and so on. I can't believe it. You know, and then, last week, somehow, I don't know what happened, they probably met and decided that this reference to them as micro-minority is something which they shouldn't accept. So now, they are referring to themselves as mighty minority. A clear contradiction in terms. Mighty minority and so on. What is this joke? A vetting process is going on. The minority has the right to participate or not to participate. It doesn't stop the work of the committee for as long as there's a quorum. How should it stop the work of the committee? There's a committee of investigation, the minority says, we are not comfortable with it, we are walking out. How does that stop the work of the committee? The issue is whether or not there's a quorum. And if there's a quorum, business must go on. So what if government presents its budget and this tiny micro minority decides to boycott Parliament? You mean the NDC with its over 180 members will wait for them? What is happening? The minority, the majority, does it understand its mission? The people of Ghana are not fools. The people of Ghana voted this way because they wanted business done in a certain manner. The people of Ghana voted emphatically for the NDC because they want change rapidly. They gave them the authority to do things. And if they cannot exercise that authority will be taken from them. Sure. If we go to an election and we give you more than 180 seats, and you cannot use that 180 seats, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. And the next election, we must take the 180 seats from you and give you 137 so that you will go and bargain. You want to bargain. You are still caught up in this hang parliament, philosophy, hang parliament things and so on. Go ahead and do that, and we will give you a hang parliament. What is this? I can't believe it. I mean, some of the things that happen in parliament, Master, is beyond comprehension. read the standing orders of Parliament. I'm not the one to interpret it and so on. We go for an election. And you have a situation in which there's a hung parliament of some sort. You understand? But the opposition appears to have the edge. In order to offset that edge, the speaker actually rules that an independent member of parliament can act as a member of parliament of the New Patriotic Party. It doesn't make sense. Show me how that makes sense. When the same speaker getting to the end of the lifespan of that parliament rules that if you are independent and you declare for a political party, you ought to go home. Where is the consistency? What happened at the time simply was that we had a new situation in Parliament which could not be covered by the existing standing orders. You understand? The standing orders which dictated that things should be done according to majority, the formula of majority versus minority and so on. So what needed to be done was to amend the standing orders to reflect the reality of Parliament at the time. And then we chose the lazy option that no matter what, we should have a majority and we should have a minority. So now, instead of caucus, we're using words like group and so on. What is this? But that's what we did. And emboldened them. So that at the point when they even have, I think, 87 seats or so, they can call themselves super minority and mighty minority. Very soon, I'm sure they'll be calling themselves supersonic minority. What is this? Incredible. You understand? And is there any wonder why they react so very badly when they are called the micro minority? You know, this lady who had an altercation with Annoh, Dompreh, so I'm sitting back and I'm wondering, what's the basis of that? All the woman did was to refer to them as micro minority, and tempers were flared. Are you not a micro minority? You are. You see, they themselves oftentimes refer to the period when they had just a little over 60 seats in Parliament, and how they quickly came back, you know, and so on, and ultimately won elections in 2000. But my brother, my sister, look at the caliber of members of Parliament at the time. You're talking about J.H. Mensah. You understand? Look at the caliber of members of Parliament. Look at the conduct of debates. They were not disruptive. They were engaged they had constructive engagement and so on, and won the respect and admiration of the people of Ghana. Today's Parliament, this micro minority, how is it endearing itself to the population? I mean, what are the prospects that this micro minority can at some point endear itself to the population? And no wonder, everywhere you go, every station you listen to and so on, people are hungering for the era of Che Mensah Bonsu. Everywhere you go, within the New Patriotic Party, outside the New Patriotic Party, and everybody say, well, if Che Mensah Bonsu was there, this is not what we'll be seeing. That's an indication of a public perception that standards are falling, that there is massive deterioration and so on. Something is very strange. This idea of setting up a committee to investigate what had happened and so on went before the plenary session of Parliament. A majority was there, the independents were there, the micro-minority was there. They raised no objection. The next day when the committee begins work, they said, we don't agree, we are boycotting. What is this? No consistency. No consistency whatsoever. And it's very deeply worrying. You understand? Now, for me, the speaker had to act immediately when these matters unfolded. I mean, every and any responsible speaker needed to do something to assuage public feelings, to give the public the confidence that something will be done to rectify the situation, you know, to restore dignity to Parliament and so on. So I was not surprised at all that the speaker immediately suspended a number of people and took some measures and so on. It was important to do something to assuage the anger of the population. I am not the custodian of parliamentary rules and regulations, okay? So I'm not even going to challenge the claim that some of the things that he did may have been an offense to the rules of Parliament. I'm not going to challenge that, be that as it may. But the speaker in that moment had to do something. After having announced those measures, it was important for the parliamentary leadership, if they found something wrong with that, to sit together, to think with the speaker, and to do the right things which will restore public confidence in Parliament, which will restore some dignity to Parliament and so on. What we saw is shocking. I mean, first of all, you had the minority leader apologize profusely to the speaker, to Parliament itself, and to the people of Ghana, and to admit that what happened was completely embarrassing and so on. And then the next moment, he's justifying what happened. I mean, look, there's a lot of work to be done. Lots and lots of work to be done. If you take the cocoa sector alone, it's frightening. I mean, I've heard statements that cocoa is the mainstay of the economy. I reject that, but that's said by economists and so on. So we can live with that. Last year, cocoa production fell by more than 50%. Galamsey is destroying our cocoa farms like nothing. Okay? The new Minister for Agriculture has disclosed that this year, Cocoa Marketing Board will have to pay a debt of more than, 53 billion cedis? Thereabout. That is not the total level of indebtedness of Cocoa Board. That's how much money we have to pay this year alone. I know people who have been to university, graduated from the universities and so on, who are working. And Master, their take-home pay is less than 2,000 cedis a month. That's a national catastrophe. I travel around this country, I see the state of the roads. Frightening. It will cause accidents, it will affect the lifespan of our vehicles, and so on. I mean, we heard stories of the starvation in secondary schools. The fact that we are feeding secondary school students with unwholesome meals and so on. You know, you talk about women, pregnant women, and the conditions under which they give birth. Master, everywhere you turn, we are facing disaster. This imposes a responsibility and duty on our parliament, especially the majority side. Now, if they're going to dance around in circles to please the micro minority and not get things done, it's up to them. The other day, I was talking to a member of parliament and a member of parliament from Wali. I was actually talking to him on television. And I was saying that there have been many instances where parliament has struggled with having a quorum. And that there were a number of instances where if the micro minority had withdrawn, parliamentary business could not be carried out. That's a problem.
It happened yesterday.
That's a huge problem. We vote for 100, more than 180 of you, and you don't go to work. Such that the business of parliament is dependent on the micro minority. My goodness, what are you doing there? That's a problem. The majority must be responsible, it must work. And one of the duties that the majority must do is to show their faces inside parliament. What is so important for them that they don't go to parliament? Said that yesterday, parliament had to adjourn because of the question of quorum. 180 something of you? What's wrong with you? Master, we better take this country serious. Because the masses of our people take their country very seriously. And they believe that it is possible to change their destiny. For now, they've replaced that destiny in the hands of a political party. If that political party is not able to protect their interests, to work for their interests, to uplift their standard of living and so on, they will take it from that political party. And who says that we have a duty, we have a responsibility to maintain this bourgeois democratic order? Who says that? Who says that is given? Who says that there are no other forms of government apart from this arrangement we have today? You sit there and be playing.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And well, that concludes the discussion on what is happening in Parliament. But just a few comments from those of you who are joining us via Facebook. Magdo says, good morning. Please, the MPP led by Afenyomakin, supported by Annoh Dompreh, should know that they are not men that the rest of the men in. They are not more men than the rest of the men in the country. The comment made by Dompreh is a sign of cowardice, and if he likes, he should bring it on. It is an apology of a member of parliament. Send that from Alajo. There's Eric Osel says Afenyo is immature. He lacks leadership skills. He thinks screaming and ranting and leadership skills. It makes his predecessor, Chairman Sabonsu, look like a sage. Kofi Simon, the speaker, he says the speaker must be changed, that the future has rotten from the head. Seidu Shaibu is joining us. The parliamentarians should know that the moment they enter the chamber, there's no more you are my friend and you are my brother that they used to say. They can say that outside parliament. Ghanaians are angry day by day. Neil Ate is joining us, says, I think the NDC government and the party executives are scared of the MPP micro-minority MPs for reasons best known to them. The NDC are behaving strangely in government as if they are in the minority. Richard Baklam says, sitting back and observing all the drama in Parliament of Ghana, I certainly believe that the media is giving too much coverage to the micro-minority, and this is encouraging and massaging their egos. The media should stop attending their press conferences and other activities, and this will calm them down. I certainly don't know how the media works. Anyway, Kofi Samuel says, I agree with Master Kwesi Pratt. The NDC gurus and MPs are just annoying with the supporters. I think they think we are fools to go out and queue, vote for them, and misbehave. Next time, their wives and children will go out and vote for them. There's more. Okay, there's more from. Let me do sell the glasses. What is wrong in Parliament? It's a weak majority caucus. Nothing more. Otherwise, we can't see 88 caucus holding the 183 plus 4 majority to ransom. There's Charles Thompson says Kwesi Pratt always factual, objective, and assertive when it comes to discussing matters of national importance. What a remarkable man. Now, Celsoa says that Mr. Committee, please, I don't understand why you, the NDC majority, still believe in these MPP people. The MPP have said and done everything for you not to believe or trust them. Why wait on them? We need you guys to stand your ground, not just having the name majority with no use. It's a big shame watching and listening to you guys all the time. I guess you watched him till the end and his conclusion. Perhaps that will change the way they approach the minority moving forward. Okay, Charles Thompson seems to know you quite well. Says you had a high-profile job in the UK and was highly respected. He chose to become member of parliament. Well, he's just joined us. We're just discussing parliament. We'll move on to another discussion that is very, very important. What happens to our education sector? President John Dramani Mahama made a promise that is followed through. So a committee has been set up to plan and organize the forum. The forum will discuss education in general, not free SHS. Everybody think everything is about free SHS. It's a forum that will discuss everything about education. How do we move forward? A major review of our education.
Deputy Majority Leader Enso Edi Ensembe Tudja or Kasafa Education Ensem na Yenti Ensem no Inchiremu.
And I'll start this time around with the Deputy Majority Leader on this issue. And because of my time, you have 10 minutes, and then we'll go around.
Well, I think during the campaign, His Excellency, the President, said that obviously when he gets elected, we will look at this free education, SHS, which really wasn't working well. It was clear for everyone to see. I mean, I think some of us, even from a numbers standpoint, had looked at it and realized that it is not something that in the long run will be sustainable. And it was going to put an enormous pressure on the taxpayer eventually if we are to fund our free education, you know, by the way we were doing it. I think this is enshrined in our, you know, constitution, that obviously when things get better as an economy, which is obviously also subjective and relative, you know, we should be able to have, you know, a free education, which I think it's something that as a country and as any nation, you are going to be able to improve as a country when you have your good size of your population, especially the young, educated. And when we say education, we are not only talking about going to university, but having a decent education that will, you know, improve your own skills to have a meaningful contribution to the society that we're trying to build together. So there's no qualms about it. I think the difference then was that, you know, as somebody say we should do it now, it's just like independence. Somebody say independent now, somebody say let's take our time. But we're all looking forward to the day that we'll be able to have the free education. My take on the free education from the very onset is that we have seen many models elsewhere. I mean, we are not the first to basically, you know, have this program of having our people educated free, especially the kind of country that we have. Our people are still relatively, you know, below the poverty line. And there are brilliant, you know, kids who otherwise will not be able to go to school if they don't get, you know, such opportunities to be able to have free education. Free education is not new. I mean, aside from Dr. Kwame Nkrumah did it, you know, in the northern part, you know, of the country. And we've seen the results today. So everyone, and most of us are believers that, look, if this thing is done, to be able to educate a good cross-section of our country, our young people, then that is also a tool to get the country out of poverty and improve its economic life. So we have experimented it by those who said, let's have it now, which one school of thought will agree that, yes, I mean, which generation are you going to mess? If you have decided we should have free education, yes, let's have it now, rather than to skip another generation while you are putting your thoughts together. Because we've been educating our kids, not today. We have tried different educational models and reducing number of years, increasing them and all that. And that itself has created, some kind of a mess. I mean, you can argue that yes, by starting free education now, or when it was done, we've been able to get a significant number of our children, to go to school, and they have reached somewhere, which maybe not now, but in the near future will be a plus. But what sort of education have we given our people or the children? What is the quality of it? It's not just being educated, but the quality of education. And that goes from nutrition and everything. What you eat, as the scientists have proven, helps your ability to be able to absorb and to learn. When you look at the type of food that our children are eating in their dormitories, it's quite frightening. In my days as a student at the Southern College, I told you we were eating poorly. But to look at what kids are eating today, I say that we were privileged. In some of you wouldn't even take some of the food given to the kids, even if it were to be a medicine. You wouldn't. I mean, medicine is usually supposed to be better. When you look at that food, you wouldn't. And the things that we have gone through, or we have heard happening in the schools, and things that have been changed today. Food is being centralized in terms of its purchase. Tomorrow, this and all that. Everything is completely in a mess. So we have a free education in a chaotic system, and the result will only be one: it will come to a halt. And if you have this kind of system, and if you want to compare such systems, and not necessarily to education, but any place where you do this free thing and you have to pump a lot of money in it, it becomes an avenue for corruption. So you realize that if you look at our budget year after year, the cost of this free education is going up, and it's going up exponentially. And we don't have limitless resources, and most of these things are funded from tax. So we've got to look at even the funding of education itself. We had I remember days of Professor Mills, when we had opportunity to have conversations, with him about his vision on education and all that, and what we should use the nation resources for, especially the oil that we became endowed with and became an oil-producing nation and all that. That maybe some of the natural resources that we have should be actually used in funding education rather than tax, because the tax is a difficult one. If you want to use tax to fund your education, it means that taxes will go up, because the tax revenue comes from the people. So if you are not collecting enough taxes, then you should increase the taxes or widen the tax net. We've talked about widening the tax net, and it never works. Because the taxes that we should even collect in a formal system, we are not doing it. We do lazy man taxes. When in this day and age, when most monies are made from technology and digitalization and all that, we choose to, impose taxes on e-levy, like a low-hanging fruit, instead of going for the actual, and we're still talking about widening the tax net. When a lot of things in this country today are done through technology that can be taxed, and other countries are doing it. It's not something that you have to reinvent the wheel. It's there. you've got to get the right softwares and the right people to do all this. So the whole education needs to be looked at. Now, you hear people, even Kevin Pratt himself at the time said that, do you expect him to pay, to get a free education? You know, there's something in other places where these systems are applied called means testing. So you've got to look at a system where you can probably means test people to make sure that whether any can be done. Okay, maybe we don't have the systems here, but if you want to go that way, then in the long run you should be able to build that. Because at the end of the day, people who can even afford to send their kids to school and pay their school fees will get poor education for their children, because they are not allowed to pay, and therefore their children with other people's children are going to suffer this poor quality of education. Look, the unemployment we have in the country is not only as a result of not having jobs for people to do, but not having people who are actually qualified to take certain jobs. They go to an interview and performance is abysmal. So that is also an issue to address, not just having a free education. So I think President Mahama is right that after having anything you do, you get to a point, you have to review it. And these guys were so stubborn in reviewing the free education. It doesn't mean you're going to cancel it. President Mahama has been here for 30 days. Nobody has said him talking about cancelling free education, which was the propaganda they were doing. To review it and look at the way forward. How should free education itself be funded? That's number one. Should we fund it through tax alone, or there should be a mix of tax and natural resources, or we should look at some other way of funding it? Or are we going to borrow? Two bad ways to fund free education is to use tax revenue alone or to do borrowing, because these numbers, as I said, are exponential numbers. So a time will come that you have to borrow too much, or you have to tax your people so much to do it. And we have to improve. The word here is quality of the free education that we are giving to our people, and make sure we can actually afford it and can fund it properly.
Okay.
And that's what I think this whole team that has been put together and what will come subsequently is supposed to address and make sure that free education has come to stay. It's enshrined in our constitution. Somebody said, let's do it now. It becomes an obligation for all of us to make sure that we get a quality of that free education that we all want.
Thank you. Thank you. This is Dennis Akwete. The NDC majority is displaying a holier than the Pope disposition, and we are not enjoying it. Now the minority is referring to it as a so-called super majority. Can you imagine? So sad to say the least. Always ends with shalom. Dennis, thank you. Yes. Papa Bisio says, hi, Sana. It's surprising my people don't know who makes up the MPP. As for me, I know them since their grandfather's time. That's during Nkrumah's regime, leading to the coup that toppled him, resulting to my late mom, Madam Regina Alara, running away to live in Nigeria. Kwesi knows her very well. She was very close to the legend Kojoboshi, relatives of Uncle Kwesi, Pratt. With all the above experiences, I came out boldly during the late President Mills' regime to tell him to stop the father for all policy. I even went further to say, just give them a day to rule, then see the results. I became an enemy within my own party. Today I'm happy my people have realized their big mistakes. Don't spare any corrupt, wicked MPP element. Recover our loose and jail them, period. That's Papa Bisio who sent that comment. Lara.
So, before I even go on the education issue, I think on Tuesday they'll be voting for the Council of State.
Yeah.
On Tuesday. Yeah. So there's this young man in Water Region. He has a number of foundations, and Kwamega Tanko. I wish him all the best.
Yeah.
I wish him all the best. I hope that his message is accepted by the people and they vote him to that high office. Having done that, I think His Excellency came on the back of a reset agenda that had the massive support of the people of Ghana. And one of the areas that needs serious research, like the Deputy Majority Leader said, is education system, and largely the issues that needs to be looked at there includes how we fund education. I think I must add infrastructure, because I can't believe that at this time we still have schools under trees. There are still schools under trees, and that area that needs to be considered seriously is even the syllabus itself. Over the past 8 years, we had our education system peddling an untruth as to the position of certain individuals, the David and Kwesi's position, and fundamental untruth in or factual untruth. So the syllabus itself also has to be looked at, and then the syllabus especially needs to be tailored specifically to our needs as Ghanaians, our needs including the issue of patriotism, which for me is a fundamental issue here. We don't seem to be patriotic. We simply don't love our country. We've driven especially over the last year, we've driven a very dangerous regionalism, what's called agenda. Meanwhile, right from the word go, the focus of Ghanaians was to create that one country where we are all Ghanaians first, before. So, educational system, I think the forum as it needs to, and I'm glad that the president has chosen to do same by way of a forum to attract all minds, all ideas, to discuss the issues that our education system are plagued with. I think the teacher training allowance is also an issue for a country who, in terms of how much tax we're paying. I think it's about 13% of our GDP. 13 stand to be corrected, but it's certainly lower than even the West African threshold. For government to be taking everything on their plate. Government is taking everything on their plate. You don't have money. You're also taking everything on your plate. Listen, a serious conversation needs to be had on how we are going to fund our education if we are supposed to make the best out of it. I think, and very extensive submission, because immediately you anchor how you finance your education on your tax and on borrowing, then you are finished. Especially in our country, when you take secondary schools, the old students they do so much for their schools. Can we find a way of finding a strategy where we can use some of their resources to deal with some of the funding issues of the schools? We have a private-public partnership act. Can we also? I'm not saying we should go that way, but I'm just throwing out there. I think that's the essence of the forum. Can we also consider that in how we fund what's called finance our education? Because this whole Kwesi chess thing, as good as it sounds, it was, in my view, an agenda by somebody who wanted to be president, who didn't have a plan. You understand? So let me throw the free SHS out there and hook the people of Ghana by it. Without a plan. Without a plan. But everybody in Ghana, every child in Ghana needs to be educated. So, yes, I think it's a call in the right direction. We need to have that forum to deal with the serious issues that, because we go to even very capitalist societies like the US, and I think there is a bigger capitalist society like an education that is free. Secondary school, high school, they call it high school. In fact, after your the daycare from primary is free. How do they fund? That's how important education is. How do they fund it? They have a model, a proper decentralized education system. They take their property tax, and so central government doesn't really fund primarily their education. It's a district that deals with it. There are so many models. I think if you go across the world, there are so many models that are used to sustain granting of free education. We need to sit down, get the experts, everybody, and find a model that suits a peculiar situation. But the problem that education system faces is not just about the funding, but also about the structure itself. About the structure, the syllabus, the purpose, the focus of our education. We need to have a discussion, because I went to SS. When I went to SS1, we had the lower 6, we had the what's called. We did 9 subjects. By the time I finished, I think the subjects had been reduced to about 7 or 8. Then we went to 4 years, came to 3 years. I said, there's so much confusion within our education system. Also in terms of the syllabus. That needs to be seriously looked at. As in, I can't understand in the life of me how all of us as Ghanaians could sit down for people to attempt to alter factual issues in the history of this country through education. Factual issues. Yeah, it has generated a whole another, and I'm glad, the James Kwesi and something that I don't think I can repeat. I don't want to repeat, but all these are born out of factual inaccuracies in our educational system. The politicians think that they can use our education system to advance a certain argument. We need to have a forum where we agree on the syllabus, where we agree on the focus and the structure. Also, you go across the length and breadth of the country, and you see, I saw videos of students having what's called a pigsty as their classroom, and some chicken. So clearly, there's a fundamental lack of infrastructure so far as education is concerned in this country. We need to have a comprehensive plan. How are we going to deal with the infrastructure issue in our schools? You understand? Because our constitution says that we want equal opportunity for all Ghanaians. Equal opportunity for all Ghanaians. You understand? Now, what that means is that, I'll use my school. See the structures of Achimota School. We should to create a system where we have similar structures across. Because if I, a Ghanaian, and when we went to Achimota School, all we used to pay was the boarding fee. I think that's what the academic user fee were concerned. It was free. Yeah. You understand? So why should I enjoy those facilities and another child somewhere will have to go to school in what's called? So we need a serious conversation there too. And then how we also fund all these training, what's called teacher training and all those issues in line with our position, our financial and economic position. If it means loan, go and take a loan, I don't see why there should be an issue about that, because if government cannot fund it and there's a loan system, because like I'm saying, in very advanced countries, they also have loan systems, and you understand. So when we talk about education, about health, about the social benefits of government, there are things that we shouldn't play with, and we must have a non-partisan, patriotic discussions and find lasting solutions and create a structure where different parties will come and for their own political agenda will not attempt to alter same so that the factual issues or same just to advance their own parochial interest. So it's a call in the right direction. I support the president and our call on all Ghanaians to support and let us all together solve this very fundamental problem that we are consistently playing with.
Thank you. Two comments. This is about Samogobo in offense. So the MPP is not ready to learn from opposition. They will be in opposition for a longer time. Ghana is a serious country and will not allow this MPP corrupt government to come to power again. That's Abbas who sent that. There's Masol Akpabli also East, who says this current NDC majority is gradually becoming a white elephant and is becoming very annoying. Ghanaians gave you 180 MPs, yet you can't contain this micro minority led by a corrupt leader, and to make matters worse, most of them failed to come to parliament to form a quorum to do government business. Is this what we queued under the sun amid so much frustration to vote for them? Ghanaians are watching killing how they are playing Mr. Nice Guy with this unruly and arrogant MPP guys in parliament, and they'll punish them if they don't change their attitude forthwith. And that's thank you. This Ambassador Sampialo says, I'm convinced beyond all reasonable doubt that some MPs need to be certified for mental competence in accordance with the requirements of the Constitution. Otherwise, how? Anyway, Ambassador.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very happy that His Excellency the President has set up this Committee on Education. I've always said that our education needs to be looked at again. The whole structure, syllabus, as my brother Andrew said. Everything. Because if you look at it as a whole generally, it looks like we're just producing graduates. We produce graduates on the SS level. We produce graduates on the tertiary level. Even on the professional level, the training colleges, we just produce graduates without any quality to it. So we are producing the numbers, but the quality is very bad. So from the basic level, the medium of training, or teaching, which is English, somebody finishes JSS, SSS, and they can't even express themselves. How is that person even going to be able to understand the question exam set to be able to pass? So you meet SS graduates and they speak bad English and they think it's funny, and people make jokes about it, they think it's funny to speak it, but it reflects badly on the kind of education that you've had. Because if you finish SS way back, I'm of the O-level, A-level, GCE, if you finish those days, even back in those days, middle school certificates were knowledgeable and could speak well. They could write letters. They were in the civil service. O-level, you could get a job with it. A-level, you could get a job with it. But somehow, along the way, everything went downhill. So it is very important that our education is reset. In fact, the MPP destroyed not only our education, they destroyed the economy, everything, our water bodies. So everything is going to be reset to take us back to 8 years ago when we handed over to them. Now, during the period of the SHS, the Minister of Education changed the syllabus and ordered new textbooks. It took him more than 4 years to have those textbooks delivered to the children. And I'm wondering how that minister expected, the former Minister of Education, he expected the kids to study. So the teacher had one copy that he had to use, and the children had no access to those textbooks. A new syllabus that had been introduced, they had no access to the textbooks. What happened? What we saw was that they were not being taught anything. But at the end of the year, in their third or fourth, the SHS is how many years? 3 years.
Yes.
In the third year, they went to buy past questions, $33 million, and distributed to the schools. So it became more of like learn, chew, and pour, and pass, without the children going through any form of real education. And I was consistently amazed at this Minister of Education, because I personally know that he owns a school in California, a chartered school funded by government, and I know that he will dare not, practice what he came to practice here in Ghana, with how he mismanaged our education. But of course, I don't blame him, because the media were hailing him as, oh, he's doing well, and he had the cameras on him all the time. But the real issue at hand, he wasn't handling. Look, he even messed up the trimester and semester. He tried to bring the American system of semester into what we know, the British system where we've been practicing for so long, trimester, and there was a whole confusion. So right now we don't even know whether we are doing trimester or semester. So those are some of the issues that the committee must look at. The kids with the red, gold, green traffic lights thing that they did, the double track. I have a nephew who got admitted December 5th last year. He came home in 2 weeks. First semester was over. He stayed home till about March or April. So you stay in school for 2 weeks, and then you come and stay home for 4 months or 3 months, so that the next group can go to school. I mean, what kind of education is that? So a semester or a calendar, 2 semesters make 9 months. 3 trimesters make 9 months. Yet we had our children staying in school for less than 3 months for one academic year. And within that one academic year, as a parent, do you ask yourself that what have they taught my child in school? Because I know that the educational calendar is 9 months in a year. So if you have your child staying at home, staying 9 months at home and 3 months at school, then you should ask yourself a question and question the education system that government is providing. The fact that it's free doesn't mean that you should accept everything that comes with it. So it's very important that we have this discussion. And it was, you know, it was a promise by His Excellency John Mahama. He also said that, like my big brother here said, he said we'll set aside a fund instead of just relying on taxes. He said he's going to set aside a fund to take care of purely SHS. And that fund is going to take care of their feeding and everything that is connected to the SHS. The SHS, you know, was started by His Excellency John Mahama, but he thought that let's put in comprehensively. He thought that let's put in the infrastructure before we move. But we also how this government, the old government, implemented it and made a mess of it. Now they come out and really I don't want to use the word useless, but they can't do anything. So you are an SHS graduate, basically you can't do anything. Then you move on to tertiary. With a tertiary one, I think that the whole course structure must be re-looked at. If you look at Legon, if you are not able to get law or business administration, they will give you something like archaeology, zoology. I mean, do we even have a zoo in Ghana? What are you going to do with zoology? What are you going to do with archaeology? Do we have like a special? Are you in Egypt? I know they have they specialize in archaeology, or in America I know they do. So if you go out there too, but the tertiary, the universities determine what you should study. So if the university says that the quota for law is full, and you didn't do too well, so we are putting you in archaeology, a subject that you have no use for, a subject that when you finish, you complete. You've wasted 4 years studying, you come out as an unemployed graduate. So we have to look at the current trends of where we are now as a nation. The whole, not just Ghana, globally, what we need, you understand? So that we incorporate new subjects, new topics into our syllabus, into our whatever we are doing at the universities. And then we will be able to churn out graduates that will be useful to the society. So literally, what they will tell you is that I recall that when I got my first degree, they said, "Oh, you whatever they give you, take." And it's a typical Ghanaian attitude. The member will be whatever they give you, take. When you finish, you can go and pursue a professional course. But in other jurisdictions, it's not the case. Whatever you want to pursue is what you will get if you qualify. So the university determines your future by giving you a course. So the committee must look at this. They have to get rid of some of the old courses that they give people that are not beneficial to them, and then introduce new courses that would be beneficial to them when they complete. So now, even if you have a first degree, it is worthless. It is worthless because you cannot use it to work. You have to now go and get a master's degree and get a PhD. So we have a lot of young graduates and even old people who are back in school. Look, the number of people who have masters and PhD in this country, I've never seen some before. Everybody, when you meet them, you meet a 45-year-old man, 50-year-old man, so what are you doing? Because he hasn't got a job, he will say, I'm schooling. But at 45, 50, you should be working and taking care of your family. But everybody is schooling. Everybody in Ghana is schooling. Everybody in Ghana is schooling. And why is that so? Because the first degree that they went to do was worthless to them. And there's competition. So if you don't pursue it, then you are stuck. Then you have how do you call it? I remember with regards to the syllabus. When we were in law school, there was something we called grandfather notes. So these notes, because the syllabus is the same, hasn't changed over the years. We all will come and use the grandfather notes. So we are not learning anything new. What they taught in the 80s is what we are all learning. The 2024s are also learning. So if we change the syllabus, people will begin to, it will be more of practical learning than just getting somebody's grandfather notes to chew for and pass. So for me, I'm very happy because the quality of education, if this committee gets it right, you know, and we should find a way that when another government comes, whatever the committee decides, no, we should find a way to keep it, so that we will not be playing, we will not be gambling with our education. That this one comes and changes, this one comes and changes it. Look at school feeding, for instance. School feeding. Baumia told us that school feeding was going to be digitalized. I mean, I don't understand what it even means by school feeding. School feeding. But they were feeding the kids with expired goods, food. They were feeding the kids with expired goods. And when we took over this January, I think I read that the schools were saying that there was no food for the kids to even report to school, but His Excellency found a way and they went back to school. So there has to be a way to ensure that when children are in school, we don't have a situation where they will go starving, or there will be no food, or you know, people will threaten not to supply because of lack of funding. This year, WAEC after the exams, WAEC refused to release results. They because Ministry of Education had not paid them. But you know, these kids pay exam fees. So who took their money? What happened? So there has to be more responsibility when it comes to our children. We shouldn't play with our children's education.
Ambassador, thank you. Thank you. This is Will's born in Sweden, who says I think it's about time the NDC changes its game plan in Parliament. Their current game plan is not helping. It's sympathizing Ghanaians at all. How on earth could 88 parliamentarians overcome 183 parliamentarians? This is a matter that will the debate will continue on for many ways to come. Hadi from Pig Farm says, good morning. Obviously, the MPP will never change. Anytime they come to power, Mother Ghana goes back 20 years. Nanado was more interested in becoming a president and accepting the responsibilities of a president. Nanado has troubled Ghanaians so much that even chiefs are afraid to sit down and greet. Indeed, Nanado is the only president who has disappointed the past, disappointed the president, and disappointed the future. Thank you very much, Hadi, for that comment. Comment?
Well, I think that it's important to always state the fundamental when you're discussing education. Now, education, simply put, is the means by which or through which the current generation transfers knowledge and skills to the next generation. And if you look at education from this perspective, it becomes so very important for our survival. You understand? Because you're talking about skills, you're talking about knowledge and so on. Very essential for our survival. Now, the setting up of a brainstorming mechanism on education is part of the promises that the NDC made in the 2024 campaign. And all of us would insist that the NDC keeps its promise. It does appear that this promise will be kept. And if this promise is going to be kept, my advice to the new Minister of Education is to shut up for now. Shut up. Yes, we haven't had the consultation. We haven't had the debate. And measures are being announced in such a manner as to confuse the population. This is not a teacher training allowance. Everybody interprets it in a different way because it was so poorly communicated. Yes, sir. For some, it means that teacher training allowance are going to be cancelled. For some, it means that it's not going to be cancelled, and so confusion. Why? So let's have the forum. Let the forum make the recommendations that it ought to make. Let government look at those recommendations and come up with a blueprint. We've carried on the debate about education in this country to the extent that today, many people think that free education is the invention of the New Patriotic Party. It is not. But it's the manner in which we've carried out this conversation. You read the first 5-year development plan that the Nkrumah government introduced. You read the 7-year development plan. Free education is the hallmark of the National Development Plan, has always been. Indeed, it took the Busia government to reverse it. I recall, I mean, I was a kid then, I think I was in secondary school from 1 or so. When this lecturer at the University of Ghana, Ebo Hatchful, confronted Busia on the campus of the Legon campus over the Busia regime's plans to reverse free education and the ostentation of the then government and so on. Now, when you mention free education, it's as if it's the invention of the new patriotic party and Annoh Akufo-Addo. You know, something is wrong. Even in recent times, the first political party that I remember after 1992 insisting on free education in its manifesto was the Convention People's Party. It was not the New Patriotic Party. The first political party that actually costed free education, costed it, showed how it was going to generate the resources and so on, was Dr. Indo's PPP.
Yeah.
You understand? The first political party that actually started implementing free education is the National Democratic Congress, when it came with the progressive approach and so on. And yet, somehow, we've allowed this discussion and debate to be conducted in such a manner as to make it look like there's an invention of Nana Akufo-Addo and the New Patriotic Party. Look, I think we should go beyond scoring party political points and begin to look at education for what it is. A mechanism, an instrument which is so vital for the survival of the human race, not just Ghana, the whole human race. Our survival depends on education. It depends on the acquisition of skills. It depends on the interpretation and exploitation of knowledge to deal with the hydra problems that confront mankind. And education is so very vital that we need to take it seriously. And therefore, we need to take this forum seriously. And therefore, promises which were made by political parties and so on also need to be kept. Finish.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. We have a few minutes. Of course, on Thursday, the Socialist Movement of Ghana, as we advertised on the last show, actually did a night of tributes to the late Dr. David Percy. If you've been following this program for long enough, even within the contemporary history of the program, last year you would have seen Dr. David Percy on the show. It was only this year that we haven't had him on the show. Unfortunately, passed on before we could invite him on the show this year. And it was quite interesting listening to the people who knew Dr. David Percy and what he stood for. So I guess all three panelists have all met Dr. David Percy on the show a couple of times. I'll start with you just briefly.
In my short time going to the media, it's one of the few shows where most of the time I leave here educated. It's not just about me, what I can miss, but I leave here educated. And one of the reasons is the caliber of people you bring here, and one of them is Dr. Percy. I wouldn't say I know him personally, but at least I've had the opportunity, in fact the privilege of having shared this platform with him a number of times, and the strength of his conviction is one thing that stands out for me. There's a man who really has a conviction, and that conviction underpins his life and his communication and everything. And personally, the people I really respect are people who behave, who act based on a strong conviction. I may disagree with that conviction, but I respect that conviction, and Dr. Percy was. And then the depth of his intellect, you understand, you talk to him and then you leave, and he causes you to have a deep thinking about a lot of things yourself you believe in, and he was a massive plus to the show. He was a massive plus to the country, because you want a country of men who are strong men, strong intellect, strong convictions. And I think when I heard that he had passed, it was devastating, and I think it's a massive loss to not just his son, but those of us who had just begun the process of knowing him. Especially in my case, I think I met him 3 weeks or 2 weeks before I heard he had passed in court. Very healthy, very happy. Okay. Oh yeah, I met him. We had a brief chat, only to hear about 2 weeks ago that he is no more. As much as it's sad, I think we all need to celebrate him. We need to celebrate his intellect. We need to celebrate his conviction. And my prayer is that this country will have many more people like him. And like I'm saying, for me, it's not about whether I agree with your view or not, but the country is always better when we have men of conviction, strong intellect, and of courage, who are not afraid to let everybody know what they believe in. Because that's the only way in which we can voice a great nation. And I think Ghana will be worse off with this loss. May he so rest in peace.
Thank you. Ambassador.
Yeah. Oh, before I go, I wish my mom a happy birthday. Today is her birthday, so don't go.
Happy birthday to her.
Yeah. Dr. Kwesi, I met him on the show, and I was quite amazed at his depth of knowledge. I learned a lot from him. He would, I looked at him and I was like, hey, this man is like a walking encyclopedia or walking historian or something. He would tell the story, and you would enjoy the story with dates and times and everything. And he was a great man. And I know that he loved the country so much, and he will really be missed. He will really be missed, and I send my condolences to his family, and may the good Lord keep his soul.
Leader.
I had an opportunity, also to meet him here. I think a couple of times.
Yes.
And I remember whether the last time or the first time I met him, I believe it was on 2 occasions. We sat in a sofa here, and he is a great conversationalist, really deep one. And he was basically a rare breed. And it's so sad to for him to also sort of pass on. But this life is a journey. You come and you contribute your quota, and then when the bell is rung, then you ought to go. So it's so sad, the type of person that as I said, I didn't know him that much, but I really got engaged with him, because he will engage you and you want to know more. Well, we did exchange numbers that we're going to talk more, because I was really excited about things he was talking about, his intuition and everything. And may his soul rest in perfect peace. I think his job is done, and he deserves the rest.
Yeah. Thank you. Comrade.
Well, I was so happy that we managed to organize this night of tributes, in memory of Dr. David Kwesi. And just the caliber of people who turned out, from all walks of life, and all of them related their experiences, with him. Some from his secondary school days, some from the days in London when he was doing his master's and PhD. Some related his life, on the farms, the university farms, where he was a lecturer and so on. And then some spoke about his political activity and so on. And in all of this, one thing was clear. He was a huge intellectual and extremely modest. I still can't put together, the different parts of his life. Percy was unbending. I mean, completely unbending. We are going to have a meeting to discuss a problem. Percy comes to the meeting with his ideas already formulated. No matter what you say, Percy still leaves the meeting with his ideas, completely unbending. Now, to be that unbending and also to strike everybody as being modest is a skill that I haven't seen in any other human being.
Sure.
You know, because it takes a certain level of arrogance to be unbending. Now, Percy has no arrogance, and yet he's unbending. You know, and I never saw him angry.
Yeah.
In all the time that I knew Percy, maybe over a period of about 40 years or more, never for once saw him angry. He could not be provoked. You know, I mean, Percy was a very extraordinary human being. You know, very extraordinary. I mean, the most outstanding thing about him is his modesty, his intellectual capacity, and of course, his friend Chichifoku described in a way that I cannot say on television. You were there, you know. I mean, completely unyielding, completely unbending, and yet, you know, you don't find him as being arrogant and so on. You know, I mean, he made us, all of us who worked with him, who associated with him, he made us better socialists. You understand? Because of his unyielding nature, you always had to return to principle. And that was the role that he played. And it's a pity that he passed out in the very bizarre circumstances under which he passed away. You know, we can only wish the family, extend our condolences to the family, you know, and when the time comes, I'm told that the funeral rites will be on the 28th and 29th of March. Okay. When the time comes, we will all be there, you know, to give the red salute to a comrade who lived his life as a comrade and contributed so much to uplifting, you know, to raising high the banner of socialism in Ghana.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This Ambassador Sampiali says, we celebrate the life of and legacy of David Percy, a deep thinker and consummate socialist. Your tireless commitment to social justice and equality has left a lasting impact on countless lives. As a pillar to the Alaji and Alaji program, your dedication and influence will be deeply missed. Rest in peace, David Percy. Your legacy will continue to inspire and motivate others to strive for a more just and equitable society.
You know, Senna, I mean, look, I'm going to make a confession. And every time I was coming on Alaji and Alaji and I heard that Percy was on the panel, I was so happy.
Yeah.
Oh. You know why? Because he made me look so modest. Because he would take the extreme position, you understand, and make me look good. So I was always happy to be on the same panel with him because he said all the things that others can say and make you sound very, you know, correct.
Yeah, quite interesting.
In a very calm manner.
Very calm. Yeah. And he always took everybody by surprise with the way he comes in. So you are having a conversation and Percy starts and everybody is wondering, you get shocked by the kind of views he would express. Yeah. And you...
Subscribe to the channel no. Share jumadi no ma afoforo ensa enkabi. Macrow, you be share in the next video.
Mamena Pendream TV ase. Now, so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, Pendream TV.